And I just read my chat and realized I was on mute. All right. So going back, just remember I was giving you the $10 words for add, subtract, multiply, and divide there. Now here are 4 examples of what I want you to do. All right. And since I was on mute, we'll go ahead and give you this. Let's see. 7 is greater than or equal to x. All right. That's pretty easy one right there. 7 is greater than or equal to x. That would be 7 greater than or equal to symbol and an x. 4 more than y. 4 more than y would be y plus 4 or 4 plus y less than x. Quotient. Ooh, look, $10 word. Quotient means division. You will write immediately after the word quotient will be 2 numbers or 2 variables or 2 something, and it goes exactly the way it would appear. So 4 ends up being your numerator. C ends up being your denominator. Remember, you're in Algebra 1, we don't use the division symbol, we use a fraction bar. So 4 over C, that's the quotient of 4 and C, is greater than 10. And the last one, 5 less, well, that's not 5 minus. 5 less would be minus 5. Then the product of 2 and x, product means multiplying 2 and x. So 2x minus 5, that would be 5 less than the product of 2x, is less than or equal to 0. So one more time, 5 less is not 5 minus, it's minus 5. You're subtracting 5. That's how you take 5 less. So 5 less, then the product of 2 and x is less than or equal to 0. All right, hopefully everything technology-wise is working now. Any questions on that? And my phone doesn't catch on fire, hopefully. All right, we'll see. All right, so that's the first one. That is a straight up review from stuff that we've already done. All right, thank you, Rowan. All right, the next 3 are the ones that unless you had me last year, I'm not 100% sure if you've ever seen this before. So the next 3, specifically, absolutely the last 2 are the ones we're going to spend some time on. So here we go. Solutions to inequality, these are pretty simple. Basically, I'm going to give you an inequality, and I will give you a value. You're going to see if it makes it true or false. So I'm going to give you an inequality. P is greater than or equal to negative or to 1.5. And then I will give you some other numbers to substitute in for P to see if it's a true statement or a false statement. So for instance, 2. If I take 2 and I toss it in, why aren't you writing? Sorry. If I take 2 and I toss it in for P, is 2 greater than or equal to 1.5? The answer is yes. If I take 2, negative 2, and throw it in for P, well, negative 2 is not greater than or equal to 1.5, so you get a no. So that's the game we're going to play. Obviously, it'll be a bit more complicated than P greater than or equal to 1.5, but that's all we're basically doing. I'm going to give you some values, you toss it in, and you see if it makes it true or false. So 175 is clearly bigger than 1.5. And one more, is 1.5 greater than 1.5? The answer is no. But remember, this is greater than or equal to. This little line right here means equal to, and 1.5 is equal to 1.5. Therefore, that answer there is yes. So I got a yes, no, yes, yes. All right. Obviously, I'm going to make it slightly more challenging than that one. So let's see a bit more challenging one. Yep, there we go. We just got a little bit more that we have to do, but the process is the same. I give you a number. You take that number, you toss it in for the x value. There'll only ever be one variable right here, and we see if it works. So let's. Oh, I already had an arrow there. What do you know? Let's see if that works. So let's see. 2 times negative 4 plus 1. See if that's bigger than negative 3. Use PEMDAS. 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. Negative 8 plus 1. Opposite signs mean subtract, more negatives than positives. So that'd be negative 7. Is negative 7 bigger than negative 3? Absolutely not. So the answer is no. All right, these aren't too bad. It's not too complicated to do right here. All right, how about negative 1? Same process. We throw negative 1 in for x. So it's basically a substitution. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. Negative 2 plus 1. Opposite sign, subtract, more negatives. Negative 1 is negative 1 bigger than negative 3. Be careful. You initially want to say no, but remember, negative 1 is bigger than negative 3. So that is a yes. Any questions so far? Okay, so in box number 3, here are 4 values that they want you to evaluate this inequality one at a time to see if they make it true or false. So you're going to do it for -1, then for 0, then for 1, and then for 3. So once again, you're going to take these values, throw them in for y, and see if it makes it true or false. So let's see, the first one. If we throw -1 in for y, so it'll be 13 minus 7 times -1. A negative times a negative is a positive, and 20 is definitely not smaller than 6. So that one's no. 3 left. We like zeros. -7 times 0 is 0. Is 13 smaller or equal to -6? Nope. 2 left. 1, -7 times 1 is a -7. 13 minus 7 is 6. 6 is not smaller than 6, but 6 is equal. So this little line here makes all the difference. That one is a yes. Lastly, for the 3, -7 times +3, -21. 13 minus 21, opposite signs, subtract, more negatives. We get -8, and -8 is definitely smaller than 6, so that's also a yes. By the way, if you were on the ball here, if you notice that one of these gives you exactly the same number, this is kind of like the break-even point. Any number smaller than the one that we plugged in, right? Any number smaller than the one we plugged in, that means all these numbers over here would make it no, and any number bigger than 1, 3 is bigger than 1, would make it true. All right, maybe some of you noticed that, maybe some of you didn't. That's not part of the problem, by the way. All right, hey, that was 2 really quick things. We're going to spend our time on the next 2. All right. I don't know, some of you liked doing this last year. This is called graphing solutions. All right, graphing solutions for equalities is kind of a useless thing. You solve an equation, you get x equals 3. It seems kind of pointless to put a dot on 3, right? There's just one dot, big whoop, right? However, for inequalities, since there's an infinite number of numbers that make this true, for instance, 0 makes this true, -1,000,000 makes this true, a half makes this true. There's lots of numbers that make this inequality true. Here are just 4 of them. Right? It does make sense to graph inequalities because the graph would show where are the numbers that make the inequality true. So what we will be doing for this entire chapter, if you ever solve an inequality, not an equation, but an inequality, you will graph your solution. So what will that look like? Right? It is a multiple step process. Some of you probably remember doing this from last year, but for those of you that didn't have me or you've never done this before, here are the steps. Step number 1, you're going to draw a number line. Well, a number line is a line. That means it has arrows on it, right? There's my number line. Step number 2, you're going to put 1 tick mark smack dab in the middle, and you're not going to make it 0. This could say x is less than -4,000,000. 0 wouldn't be in the middle there, right? So you put 1 tick mark. Notice there's only one number here in the yellow here, 3. That number will go underneath your tick mark. We're not claiming that's the middle of a number line. We're just saying that our number line is centered for this particular inequality around 3. You remember doing this from last year? The next thing is we either put an open circle or a closed circle on 3. So here's the rules. The rules are this. If you have just a less than or a greater than, no line underneath of it, you're going to put an open circle. And what an open circle means is that 3 doesn't make this true. However, if you have a less than or equal to or a greater than equal to, you will put a closed circle. That means that 3 is included in the answers. So once again, the key here is to look right here. If it's strictly less than or greater than, you put an open circle. So I put an open circle right on that tick mark. Okay. Do you remember the last step from last year? It was that shading thing. So here's what you do. You're going to either shade left or right of that red circle. Here's how you determine how you do that. you read this. You're going to read it from variable to number. I want you to read it from variable number because the variable could be on the left side or the right side. So you're going to read it from variable to number. As I read this from variable to number, this says x is less than 3. Instead of saying less than, you could say the solutions are smaller than 3. The solutions are smaller than 3. Well, here's my number line. 3 is right here. This says the solutions are smaller than 3. Well, where are the numbers smaller than 3? They're on the left side. Okay. Contrast that if it said, let me do this. Contrast that if it said it the other way. We read that from left to right, it says 3 is greater than x. But remember, I ask you to read it from variable to number. And in this case, we're going to read it from right to left. And now it says x is, well, here's the small part of the inequality. X is smaller than 3. The answers that are smaller than 3 live to the left of 3 on the number line. So the two keys here, open or closed circle is the key, and the shading is the key. The rest is pretty easy. Okay. Now, some teachers will have you put other tick marks and have you write some numbers, right? And that's fine. I'm kind of more efficient. So if I wrote more numbers, there would be 2, there would be 1, there's your 0. I did that backwards. Good Lord. I need to stop and breathe some oxygen here. Oh, it goes up 4, 5, 6. I can't believe I did that, but I did it. Now we go 2, 1, 0. So those would be the numbers if you were to put extra numbers on there, but it's not required because it's a number line. We know that the bigger numbers are to the right of the given number, and the numbers are smaller as we go to the left. All right, let's do some more examples. All right, here's another one. Okay, so the steps say draw a number line. All right, there's a number line. Put a tick mark goes in the middle. Write the number. Well, remember the number is always right here. So that number will go right smack underneath the tick mark. Okay, whether it's negative or whether it's positive. Okay, we're going to put an open or closed circle based upon whether it's looks like any one of these 4 right here. So this one looks like this one right here. So it says put an open circle. And remember, an open circle means that that number 1 will not make this true. 1 is not smaller than 1. If it was a closed circle, for instance, if it was less than or equal to, well, 1 would make that true. So this circle would be, in fact, shaded or closed. But in this case, it's not. Okay, so we put an open circle, and then we see if we shade on the left side or the right side. So we read this from variable to number. We see what it says. It says n, or the solutions, are smaller than 1. So where are the numbers that are smaller than 1? Well, they're on the left side. And yes, your squiggly line right here is what you need to do. Some people make a perfect shade. If you see in the book, they just put a really big, thick line, but it's really shady. It's saying, where do the solutions live? All the numbers that are to the left of 1 on a number line make this thing true. All right, any questions so far? Hopefully you remember doing this from last year. All right, here's another one. It says A is greater than or equal to 0. So let's see, tick mark. Number. Oh, 0 is finally in the middle here. Why? Because, well, the number right here is 0. I don't care what that number is. It goes right smack dab here in the middle. Open or closed circle. Well, finally we get to one that it's closed. Why? Because it's one of these two. And a closed circle means that that number, in this case 0, makes it true. Notice, if I put 0 in for A, 0 is not greater than 0, but it is equal to 0. So open circle for strictly less than or strictly greater than. And if it's less than or equal to or greater than equal to, it's a closed or shaded circle. To find out which side we shade, left or right, we read it from variable to number, variable to number. So this says A is greater than or bigger than 0. So all the solutions are bigger than 0. Where are the numbers that are bigger than 0 on number line? Well, they're to the right. Now, usually at this point, I get some smarty pants and will say, hey, I know which way to shade. All you got to do is you just simply look at the inequality. See the inequality? It's pointing to the right, and I'll agree with you. But if I write the inequality backwards, right, it's still written correctly. Notice the the inequality flips around. So this says A is still bigger than or equal to 0. Well, so I need to shade right, but notice now the arrow is pointing to the left. So then I'll have another smarty pants say, well, if the variable comes first, then it does point in the direction. And that is true. I can't deny that. But usually what happens is some kids won't remember that. And so I would much rather you remember just saying the solutions are read it from variable to number, and you can't go wrong. Hopefully I didn't confuse anyone by that. But yes, smarty pants, some of you guys have that in your head. You can absolutely use that. All right. Here are two, I mean, these are two problems. These aren't the same problem. I need two different number lines, one for this one and one for this one. So give me two number lines. Do this one real quick. I'll give you about a 30-second head start. And if you need to ask any questions, ask them at this time. Okay, so let's see. The first one says f is greater than -3. So number line, tick mark, -3. I read it as the solutions or the answers are bigger than -3. Where are the numbers bigger than -3? To the right. So for instance, any number here to the right of -3, so I don't know, pick some numbers. 10 is bigger, 10 would be to the right, so 10 would make this true. Any number on the left would make it false. So for instance, -10 is over here somewhere, and -10 is not bigger than -3. So the reason why we graph inequalities is because the picture itself tells me where all the solutions live. I have an open circle on -3, meaning -3 would not make this one true. Second one, it's closed circle because of the line right here. As we read this from variable to number, x is smaller or equal to -2. So the numbers that are smaller or equal to -2 live to the left of -2 on a number line. So for instance, -3, -4, -5. And then anything to the right, bigger, 0 is bigger than -2, would make this false. 0 is not smaller or equal to -2. All right, any questions? Cool. All right, we got one thing left. We're going to do the reverse. See the picture? Get it? Reverse. All right. The reverse is I'm going to give you the picture of the graph, and you are going to write the inequality. So it's basically just the steps in reverse. If you need to write the steps down, here are the steps. So the steps are you pick a variable. Now notice you can't tell what variable they use because all it has 13, a closed circle, and shade left. So you get to pick your variable, any one of the 26 letters. I'll be lazy and pick G. Okay, so I pick a letter G. Step number 2, there will only be one number underneath the circle. The circle will either be open or it will be closed. So underneath the circle, open or closed, will be a number. That number goes right smack there. The only thing left to do now is to put the inequality. Remember the rules for inequality. If it's a closed circle, it's going to be one of these two symbols right here. One of those two, so this one's closed, so it's either less than or equal to or greater than equal to. Well, what is it saying here? Read the graph. It's saying that the solutions are all smaller than 13. Well, how do you write smaller? That's less than, since it's a closed circle, less than or equal to. Once again, going back, okay, pick a letter. There will only be one number underneath the circle, so write that number, right? Look at your circle. Is it open or closed? If it's closed, you use one of those two symbols, and now look at the shading. The shading is to the left of 13, the numbers that are smaller than 13. Smaller means less than or equal to, so we pick less than or equal to, and that's it, you're done. Let's see that again. Step number 1, pick a letter. Okay, G. Any one of the 26 letters works. Step number 2, look at the number. The number underneath the circle, right, is -1, so we put a -1. Open circle or closed circle. So an open circle gets one of these two symbols. A closed circle gets one of these two. So we have a closed circle. So once again, it's going to be one of these two symbols. Now we pick the right one. Well, to pick it, we look at the graph. The shading is to the right of -1. So that means the numbers that are bigger than -1. Remember, numbers get bigger as you go to the right on a number line. So bigger than would be the second symbol right here. And that's it. That's all it is, right? Pretty simple. Okay. All right. Here are two smack dab in front of you. These are two different ones. Go ahead and look at each one and then write the inequality. Anyone need help to get started? Okay, so the first one, pick a variable. It's an open circle, so it'll be one of these two symbols, less than or greater than. It's shaded to the left, so I'm going to use the less than symbol. So G is less than 11. Second one, the number is -7. It's closed. So if I use G again, it's G, and I'm shading to the right. Those are bigger than -7. So G is bigger than or equal to -7. And it looks like I picked X this time. All right, any questions? Apologize for the technical difficulties. My next door neighbor literally works for Comcast, and my internet is not working today. So he will be getting an unfriendly word from me today about his company. But if there are any questions, please send it to me in chat. Hopefully that was a review. You either taught it last year by a different teacher, or you remember doing this in pre-algebra. If there are any questions, send me a chat or email. I'll be happy to give you any help. For those of you that did not turn, this is Thursday at, what time is it now? It is 12:02, Thursday at 12:02. If you have not taken your test, right, I will be putting zeros in the grade book if I don't get your test, or some word from someone saying, hey, I'm having problems turning it in, that sort of thing. You got until midnight tonight, Thursday, to get that test turned in. And like I said, if you've already turned it in, right, by 12 o'clock, then I've already have it in the grade book. So go ahead and check. And for those of you that did well, congratulations. All right, I'll end it right there unless somebody has something. Okay. You guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys tomorrow.